What you are looking at right now was made in Nigeria. It was cast from bronze with a precision that silenced European metallurgists when they first encountered it. It is over 500 years old. It has been sitting in a museum in London for 128 years. Right now, the art and sacred objects of one of Africa's greatest civilizations are scattered across 139 institutions in 21 countries. Most of the people walking past them today have no idea where they came from. Most of the world has no idea what was destroyed to put them there. This is not ancient history. This is recent. This is documented. And this is only one chapter of a story so extraordinary that I genuinely could not believe it wasn't taught in every school on Earth. Because before the British arrived, before the looting, before the burning, before the exile of the king, there was a kingdom here that the world has almost completely forgotten. If you have never heard the full story of the Benin Kingdom, stay with me, because the next 10 minutes are going to completely change how you see Nigerian history, African history, and what the word civilization really means. The Kingdom of Benin, known to its own people as the Edo Kingdom, was established in the forested region of what is today southern Nigeria, beginning around the 13th century CE. Its capital was Benin City, a metropolis so well organized, so architecturally sophisticated, that the first Europeans to visit it in the 15th century wrote home in disbelief. At its height, the Benin Kingdom stretched over an area of roughly 80,000 square kilometers, comparable in size to the entire country of Ireland. It was governed by a dynasty of Obas, divine kings, whose unbroken line of succession stretches from the 13th century all the way to the present day. The current Oba of Benin, Oba Eware II, is the 40th in a royal lineage that has never been interrupted. That is one of the longest continuous monarchies in the history of human civilization. The empire traded with kingdoms across West Africa, and from the 15th century directly with Portugal. It had a complex administrative system, a guild structure that organized craftsmen, healers, and warriors, and a military capable of expanding and defending a vast territory. And it was governed for centuries with a stability and sophistication that rivals anything being built elsewhere in the medieval world. But it is not the size of the Benin Kingdom that should stop you. It is what they built inside it. And what they built was so extraordinary that when the British finally arrived, they burned it to the ground because they didn't know what else to do with something so far beyond what they expected to find. Let us start with the walls. The walls of Benin are a series of earthworks, banks, and ditches called iya in the Edo language that surrounded Benin City and extended through the rural area around it. The city walls alone stretch for 15 kilometers, but the full network, the interlocking system of earthworks protecting the entire kingdom, extended for an estimated 16,000 kilometers. The walls of Benin are listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest earthworks carried out before the mechanical era, 4 times the length of the Great Wall of China. 4 times, not twice, not comparable to, 4 times longer than one of the most famous construction achievements in human history. And they were built without mechanical equipment, without modern engineering, using human organization, knowledge, and labor beginning as early as the 9th century CE. Oba Eware the Great, who ruled from 1440 to 1473, is credited with fortifying and expanding Benin City into a military stronghold protected by these moats and walls. Archaeological excavations in the mid-20th century revealed potsherd pavements in Benin City dated to around or before the 14th century, evidence of sophisticated urban infrastructure centuries before European contact. And one of the most extraordinary facts about Benin City, a fact that tends to stop people completely, is this. Benin City was one of the first cities in the world to have street lighting. Metal lamps fueled by palm oil lit the main streets and the approaches to the royal palace. When the Dutch traveler Alfred Dapper described Benin City in 1668, he noted broad streets, orderly architecture, and a city that functioned with a level of civic organization that surprised him deeply. Much of Europe at this time, including large parts of Britain, had no equivalent street infrastructure whatsoever. So we have walls that dwarf the Great Wall of China, street lighting that predated most of Europe, and we haven't even talked about what is probably the single most extraordinary cultural achievement of the Benin Kingdom, the thing that Europeans, when they first encountered it, refused to believe was African. The Benin Bronzes are not bronzes in the simple sense of the word. They are a visual archive, a record of an entire civilization, cast in metal and ivory over the course of 5 centuries. The Guild of Bronze Casters, the Igun Eronwan, worked exclusively for the royal court, commissioned by each successive Oba to document history, honor ancestors, record diplomatic encounters, and capture the full range of life in the kingdom. What they produced was by any measure extraordinary. The naturalism of the castings, the complexity of the compositions, the technical mastery of the lost wax casting process. When Europeans first saw these objects in 1897, they concluded, and documented this conclusion in writing, that they could not have been made by Africans. They proposed seriously that the bronzes must have been made by the Portuguese, or by ancient Egyptians, or by survivors of Atlantis. Any explanation, apparently, was more acceptable than the obvious one, that the Edo people of Benin City had independently developed one of the most sophisticated metalworking traditions in human history. Today, Benin Bronzes are held in 139 institutions across 21 countries. The British Museum alone holds approximately 900 objects. The Smithsonian, the Metropolitan, the Louvre, the Vatican, all hold pieces of this kingdom's cultural heritage. These were not objects that were traded. They were not gifted. The vast majority were looted in a single military operation carried out by the British in February 1897, an operation whose explicit secondary purpose, documented in British military records, was to sell the seized artworks to cover the cost of the invasion. We're about to get to 1897, and the story of what happened in that year is one of the most disturbing things I have ever researched. Before we do, if this history is new to you and you think more people should know it, subscribe now and share this video. This is exactly the kind of story that needs to travel. Before the destruction of 1897, there was a very different kind of encounter between Benin and Europe. In approximately 1485, Portuguese explorers arrived at Benin City, becoming the first Europeans to make contact with the kingdom. What they found astonished them. A city with broad, straight avenues, an organized market, a royal palace comparable in scale and grandeur to the great palaces of Europe, a king, the Oba, who received the Portuguese as equals, not as supplicants. The Oba and the Portuguese king exchanged ambassadors. Trade developed. Benin exported ivory, pepper, and cloth. It imported copper, the raw material the Benin bronze casters needed. The Oba sent an ambassador to Lisbon. The King of Portugal sent missionaries to Benin. For nearly 2 centuries, the Kingdom of Benin and the Kingdom of Portugal maintained a relationship of mutual trade and diplomatic respect. 2 sovereigns, 2 civilizations, dealing with each other as equals. Edo artists captured this encounter in their bronzes, depicting Portuguese soldiers and traders with extraordinary accuracy. Their armor, their weapons, their features. These bronze plaques are, among other things, some of the earliest realistic representations of Europeans ever made by non-European artists. They are visual evidence that the Edo people of Benin City engage with the outside world on their own terms, curious, confident, and entirely unintimidated. That confident, sovereign engagement with the world lasted for centuries, and then in February 1897, it ended, not gradually, not politically, but with fire, guns, and an order from the British government to erase what they could not control. By the late 1800s, the British Empire had grown impatient with the Kingdom of Benin. The Oba controlled trade routes the British wanted unrestricted access to. He refused to open the kingdom to British commercial firms on their terms. he maintained his sovereignty in the face of increasing colonial pressure. In January 1897, a British diplomatic party attempted to enter Benin City without permission, during a period of sacred ceremonies when the Oba had specifically requested no visitors. The party was attacked. 7 British officers were killed. The British response was overwhelming and deliberate. Within weeks, a 1,200-man punitive expedition arrived. The outer defenses were breached, the palace compound was seized, and Benin City, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in West Africa, was burned. In the looting that followed, British forces seized over 3,000 objects from the palace: bronze plaques, commemorative heads, ivory carvings, royal regalia, sacred altarpieces. They were auctioned off in London to offset the costs of the military expedition. The Oba Ovonremen, was captured, exiled, and died in exile in 1914. The kingdom, which had survived for 700 years, was incorporated into the British Protectorate.